The air in the gym was thick with the smell of old sweat, leather, and effort. It was a quiet smell, a working smell. Miho moved around the heavy bag, his fists a steady rhythm of soft thuds. Hud hud hud, hud hud hud. Each strike was precise, each movement balanced. White athletic tape, worn and gray in places, was wrapped tight around his knuckles and wrists. It was the only armor he ever needed. Across the small room, his older brother Taehyun was on the phone. Taehyun's voice was low, tense. Miho didn't need to hear the words. He knew the tone. It was the sound of bills, of debt, of a sinking feeling. The old wall screen was on, sound low. It showed colors too bright and shapes too strange. The Interstellar Games. Galactic species from 100 worlds competed in events of strength, speed, and brutal combat. They wore shimmering suits of light and metal. Energy shields glowed around them, deflecting blows that could crush steel. A human competitor was on screen. The man was big, a weightlifter from somewhere in Europe. He was stuffed into a bulky, human-made version of the alien armor. It looked clumsy. It hissed and sparked. In a race that involved leaping across floating platforms, the human suit malfunctioned. A jet boot sputtered. He missed his jump, flailing, and was caught by a safety beam. The alien commentators made soft, chirping sounds. It wasn't laughter, not exactly. It was something worse. It was pity. "Another failure for Team Earth," said one smooth, translated voice. "A valiant attempt to adapt our technology. Perhaps next cycle." Miho stopped punching. He watched the human athlete hang his head in the safety beam, a look of shame on his face. It wasn't the man's fault. He was strong. He was brave. But he was trying to play a game with someone else's tools, and the tools were broken. Taehyun hung up the phone. The sound was final. He rubbed his face with both hands. "Bad?" Miho asked, unwrapping the tape from his hands. The ritual was slow, careful. "The bank," Taehyun said. His voice was tired. "They won't extend the loan again. They're calling it all in. If we can't pay in 30 days. The gym is gone. The apartment above it, too." The gym was everything. It was their father's place. He had taught boys and girls from the neighborhood how to stand up straight, how to throw a punch, how to breathe through fear. He had taught Miho. When their father got sick, the medical bills ate the savings. When he died, the debt remained. The gym was all he left them. Now that was slipping away. Taehyun gestured at the screen, where a glittering insect-like alien was celebrating a victory. "You see the prize money for these things? For just qualifying? It's more than we owe. It's a new life." "We are not astronauts, Taehyun," Miho said, his voice flat. "We are not soldiers." "I know," Taehyun snapped, frustration boiling over. "I know what we are. We are two brothers who are about to lose the only thing we have left. And out there," he pointed at the screen, "they are throwing around money like it's nothing for playing games." A new graphic flashed on the screen. "Open Frontier Challenge." It read in translated text, "A tradition of the ancient games. One event, the Vrection Rumble. No provided armor. No standard shields. Competitors may enter with the tools of their homeworld, their own bodies, their own spirit. A test of pure essence." The video showed a chaotic event. Fighters in minimal gear battled in a wild, floating arena. It was more brutal than the other events. More direct. "See," Taehyun said, a bitter, hopeless laugh in his throat. "Even they have an event for people with nothing. For primitives." Miho stared at the screen. He watched the fighters. They had claws or hard shells or natural armor. But some were softer, like humans. They relied on speed, on cunning. One was knocked out. The medical drones zipped in, spraying fast-healing foam. The prize money for the Frontier Challenge was listed. It was a staggering number. Even for third place, it was 10 times their debt. Miho didn't see galactic spectacle. He didn't see aliens. He saw a ring. A different kind of ring, but a ring all the same. A ring where they said you could only use what you brought. What you were. He looked down at his hands. At the simple roll of white tape on the bench next to his bag. His tools. His father's tools. Taehyun was talking, his voice fading into a plan of desperation, of selling things, of begging. Miho picked up the tape. He tore the end with his teeth, a familiar, sharp sound. He began to wrap his left wrist. Not for training, not for show. He wrapped it with a tight, practiced focus. The fabric pulled snug, supporting the bones and tendons. He smoothed it down. "What are you doing?" Taehyun asked, his rant dying. Miho started on the right wrist. Pull, wrap, smooth. He didn't look up at the screen full of impossible aliens. He didn't look at his brother's worried face. He looked at his hands, at the tape, at what he knew. He finished wrapping. He made 2 fists. The tape creaked softly. Felt like certainty. Felt like the only real thing in the room. "I am going to enter," Miho said. His voice was quiet, but it filled the silent gym. Taehyun stared at him as if he had spoken in another language. "Enter? Enter what? The games?" "Miho, you heard me. They have claws. They have energy shields." "The Frontier Challenge," Miho said. He finally looked at his brother. His eyes were dark, calm. "No shields, just home tools. This," he raised his taped fist, "is my home tool. That's tape, cloth tape. They will kill you for a joke." "Maybe," Miho said. He stood up. He wasn't a big man, not like the weightlifter on the screen. He was lean, made of wire and quiet muscle. "But they said it is a test of essence, of what you bring." He opened and closed his hands. "This is what I bring. It is all I have ever needed." He walked to the terminal in the corner, the one they used for gym bookings and taxes. He began to search for the entry portal for the Interstellar Games Frontier Challenge. Taehyun watched him, horror and a wild, impossible hope fighting on his face. He saw his younger brother, who had always been still waters, who spoke with his hands more than his mouth, preparing to throw himself into a galactic storm with nothing but strips of cloth. Miho filled out the form. Name, Kim Miho. Species, human. Planet, Earth. Event, Vrection Rumble. Equipment to be used, standard athletic tape, cloth. He hovered over the submit button. For a second, he saw his father's face, nodding from the stool in the corner. He heard his old words. "The ring tells the truth. Always." Miho pressed the button. The confirmation arrived not with a fanfare, but with a simple chime on the gym's old terminal. It was a holographic ticket, shimmering in the air above the dusty keyboard. Miho read it silently. Taehyun read it over his shoulder, his breath quickening. "They accepted it," Taehyun whispered, as if saying it too loud would make it vanish. They think it's real." The ticket listed a departure time from the Seoul Space Elevator in 48 hours. Attached was a medical waiver longer than Miho's arm, and a liability form that basically said, "If you die, it's your own fault." The alien script flowed, then translated into cold, clear Korean. Miho printed the ticket. The paper was warm, flimsy, felt less real than the tape on his wrists. News traveled fast in a connected world. Within hours, the story was on data feeds. Local boxer's suicide mission? Human enters frontier challenge with primitive gear. A reporter from a global sports channel showed up at the gym with a camera drone. Miho sent Taehyun out to talk to him. He heard the questions through the door. "Is this a protest? Does your brother have a death wish? What do you say to those calling this a pathetic stunt?" Taehyun's answers were strained, defensive. "He's a skilled fighter. It's about the spirit of the challenge. It's not a stunt." Felt hollow. Miho sat on the training bench, rolling a fresh length of tape between his fingers. He thought about the ring, the truth of it. This was not the ring. This was noise. His friend Yuna came that evening. She pushed into the gym, her face pale with anger and fear. She was a mechanic, practical, her hands always faintly smudged with machine grease. "Have you lost your mind?" she said. Not even a hello. "Miho, look at me. This isn't a fight with some gangster in a back alley. These are aliens. They are stronger, faster, and they have natural weapons." "I know," Miho said. "Do you? The Vrection Rumble? I looked it up. It's in a zero-gravity arena with moving parts. People get shattered. The only humans who tried it wore full exosuits and still broke bones. The rules say no standard shields or armor, Miho said, his voice quiet. It says, tools of your homeworld. This, he held up the tape, is my tool. My only one. It's tape. Yuna's shout echoed. She took a breath, lowering her voice. Miho, please, this is about the money, right? For the gym? We can find another way. We can all help. We can start a fund, we can… There is no time, Taehyun said from the doorway, his voice heavy. The bank was final. This is the only way. Yuna looked between the brothers. She saw the despair in Taehyun's eyes and the unshakable calm in Miho's. It was the calm that scared her the most. She walked over and sat next to Miho on the bench. Why? She asked, just one word, soft now. Miho was quiet for a long time. He looked at the peeling poster of his father on the wall. When I fight, he said slowly, it is simple. There is me. There is the other person. There are the rules. I understand my body. I understand distance. I understand the hit I can take and the hit I can give. Out there, he nodded toward the world beyond the gym walls. Everything is noise. Debt, papers, pity, this challenge. It is a ring. A strange ring, but a ring. In the ring, things are clear. And if you lose? Yuna asked. Then I lose, he said with a small shrug. But I will lose using what I know. Not in a broken machine I do not understand. The night before his departure, Miho packed a small bag, a change of clothes, a photo of his father and Taehyun, 5 rolls of white athletic tape, nothing else. At the Seoul Space elevator terminal, it was chaos. Humans in official uniforms tried to guide him. News drones buzzed like insects. A stern woman in a suit, Ms. Choi from the Earth Liaison Office, pulled him aside. Mr. Kim, she said, her voice low and urgent. You can still withdraw. This is a diplomatic disaster in the making. If you are killed on a galactic broadcast, it makes all of humanity look foolish and reckless. It confirms every stereotype they have about us being primitive suicides. Miho listened. He nodded to show he heard her. Then he said, I signed the forms. Your funeral is not just yours. Ms. Choi hissed. It belongs to the entire species now. I did not ask for that, Miho said. He shouldered his bag and walked toward the gateway. The shuttle to the orbital station was smooth and quiet. He was the only passenger. He watched Earth shrink away, a beautiful blue marble. He felt no fear, only a strange emptiness. A focus. The Interstellar Games Station was like nothing he had ever imagined. It was vast. A city of light and strange architecture floating in the black. Gravity felt different, lighter. Aliens of every shape and size moved through the wide halls. Some were giants with thick hides. Some were slender with shimmering skin. They looked at him, a lone human in simple clothes, and their eyes slid away. He was beneath notice. At the registration desk, a floating orb scanned his ticket. It emitted a series of puzzled beeps. A smaller, mammal-like alien with large eyes scurried over and checked the screen. It looked at Miho, then at the equipment list. You are Kim Miho? Human? For the Vrexian Rumble? Yes, Miho said. The alien blinked. Your profile lists? Cloth strips. Tape, Miho corrected gently. And you have this tape? Miho opened his bag and showed the 5 white rolls. The alien stared, its nose twitching. It input something, shrugged in a very human-like way, and handed Miho a keycard. Quarter 87B. Prelims begin in 18 station hours. Good luck. The alien said the last word like it was a foreign concept. Miho found his quarter. It was a small, clean room with a bed, a shower, and a screen. He placed his bag on the floor. He took out 1 roll of tape. He sat on the bed. He tore the start of the tape with his teeth. The sound was loud in the silent, alien room. He began, slowly and carefully, to wrap his left wrist. Then his right. Outside his door, the galaxy hurried by. But in the quiet room, There was only the soft sound of cloth wrapping skin. Pull, wrap, smooth. A final, firm press. He made 2 fists. The tape held. It was familiar. It was his. It was the only thing in this entire glittering, impossible station that made any sense. He closed his eyes, and for the first time he pictured not aliens or zero gravity, but a simple ring. And he waited. The station was a world of whispers and strange sights. Miho walked the wide corridors, a ghost among giants. No one stopped him. No one cared. He was just another body moving through the machine, a small, soft thing in a hard, bright universe. His quiet was broken by a voice. You, human. He turned. The being was taller than him, covered in fine, iridescent scales that shifted from blue to green. She had 4 arms and large, dark eyes that held a look of sharp curiosity, not cruelty. You are the one for the rumble? The one with no suit. Miho nodded. I am Klin, she said. Her voice was translated by a small device on her collar, but it carried a melodic tone. I am a pilot. I ferry competitors sometimes. Your entry. It caused a stir in the lower betting pools. Many think it is a joke. It is not a joke, Miho said. Klin studied him. She saw the tape on his wrists. She saw his calm eyes. No, she said after a moment. I do not think it is. But it is a death wish. You have no natural armor. No claws. Your bones are like sticks. She held up one of her lower hands. A thin, sharp spur extended from her wrist with a soft click. See? This is a tool. What is your tool? Miho raised his taped fist. This. She made a soft, chirping sound. Not laughter, but confusion. Cloth? It does not cut. It does not shield. It holds me together, Miho said. It was the simplest truth he knew. Klin was silent. Then she did something surprising. She reached into a pouch on her belt and pulled out a slender silver bracelet. It glowed with a faint blue light. Here, a basic kinetic dampener. It is weak, but it will soften a blow. It is not against the frontier rules. Many use small things like this. Take it. Miho looked at the offered technology. It hummed softly. It was a piece of the galaxy, a piece of safety. He thought of Yuna's fear, of Ms. Choi's anger. He thought of the impossible odds. He shook his head. Thank you. But no. Why? Klin's question was genuine. Pride? A point. Miho searched for the words. If I use that, I will think about it. I will wonder if it will work. I will trust it, not me. In the ring, there is no time to wonder. You must know. I know my hands. I know my feet. I do not know this. He pointed to the bracelet. So I cannot use it. Klin retracted her wrist spur and put the bracelet away. She looked at him with a new kind of interest. You are either the wisest being here or the most foolish. My people have a name for this. Tavon. It means to walk the path with only your own shadow. It is rare. She paused. The others will not understand. They will see only meat. I am used to it, Miho said. Come, Klin said. I will show you the training observation deck. You may watch your opponents. Knowledge is a tool you will allow yourself, yes. He followed her. She moved with a graceful, flowing motion. She told him to call her Mira. It is a sound my mouth can make that is close for you, she said. It was a simple kindness. The observation deck was a vast window overlooking a training arena. Inside, creatures trained. A hulking being with rock-like skin slammed into a heavy drone, shattering it. A sleek, insectoid thing moved in blurred bursts of speed, cutting targets with its arm blades. They were all power, all ferocity, all noise. Miho did not watch their strength. He watched their feet. He watched how they shifted their weight after an attack. He watched the pause when their energy shields flared from a hit. He saw the small moments of imbalance, the openings that lasted less than a breath. Mira stood beside him. What do you see? I see patterns, Miho said softly. Later, in his small room, he did not rest. He moved. The space was limited, but it was enough. He began his shadowboxing, not with wild punches but with small, precise steps. He pivoted on the ball of his foot. He slipped an imaginary blow by moving his head an inch. He exhaled sharply with each controlled, imagined strike. He was not training his power. He was training his control. In zero gravity, he reasoned control would be everything. Power without control was just flying off into space. A soft chime came from his door. It was a message, forwarded from Earth. It was from Yuna. No video, just text. Miho, I am angry at you. I am scared for you. But I am also watching. Everyone here is. The whole neighborhood. The kids from the gym. They are all talking about the crazy man who took his tape to the stars. So, remember why you fight. Not for them. Not for the aliens. For you. For that quiet place you go to in the ring. Find that place out there. And come back. He read the message twice. He felt a tightness in his chest that was not fear. It was something else. He put the device down. He picked up a fresh roll of tape. He tore it with his teeth. The rip sound was solid, real. He wrapped his wrists again, a little tighter this time. The familiar pressure grounded him. It was a ritual, preparation, promise. Out there, in the glittering station, billions of beings saw a story. They saw a human making a sad, final mistake. They saw a punchline. But in the quiet room, a boxer wrapped his hands. He breathed in and out. He thought of a ring, of his father's voice, of the smell of an old gym. He was not a galactic hero. He was not a sacrifice. He was a man who knew one thing very, very well. And soon, he would step into a new kind of ring to do it. The station's artificial day cycle announced morning with a soft, universal chime. Miho was already awake. He sat on the edge of his bed, rolling the stiffness from his shoulders. The message from Taehyun had come in during the night. It was a video call, but his brother had only sent audio. His voice was raw, stripped bare. Miho, they came by the gym. The bank people. With papers. They put a notice on the door. Everyone on the street saw. It's real. They said 27 days. I tried to talk, but there's nothing left to say. A long pause filled with shaky breath. That prize money. It's the only thing that will make the number go away. I know what I'm asking. I know it's wrong. But I'm asking anyway. Please, do whatever you have to do. The message ended. Miho played it once more, then deleted it. The words settled inside him, cold and heavy. This was no longer just about a ring, about a test. It was about a roof, a floor, a home. The debt was a monster, and it was at their door. He dressed in simple training clothes. He slipped the 5 rolls of tape into a small pocket. As he left his room, the station felt different. The lights were harder. The sounds were sharper. The stakes were no longer abstract. They had weight. Mira found him near the viewing deck again. She could read the change in his posture. Something is wrong, she stated. Home trouble, Miho said, not looking away from the training aliens below. Ah, Mira said. She understood more than he said. The money. Yes. It is a worse pressure than fear, she said softly. Fear is for yourself. This is for others. Miho just nodded. A floating media drone, a small silver sphere, zipped toward them. A translated voice, too cheerful, came from it. Competitor Kim Miho. A moment for the galactic audience? What are your thoughts before the rumble? Many are calling your entry a bold statement. What statement are you making? Miho looked at the drone's single lens. He thought of Ms. Choi's warning about a diplomatic disaster. He thought of the alien commentators and their polite pity. He thought of the kids at the gym watching. I am here to fight, he said simply. The drone hovered, waiting for more. Is that all? No message about humanity? No protest against the advanced technology? Miho shook his head. No protest. I fight with what I have. That is all. The drone seemed almost disappointed. Are you seeking a noble death? A warrior's end in the arena? The question hung in the air. Mira hissed, a sharp, angry sound from her world. But Miho just frowned, as if the question was foolish. I am seeking to fight, he repeated, his voice flat. Not to die, to fight. He walked away, leaving the drone bobbing in silence. The clip would play across the galaxy later, his calm words making him seem either deeply confident or utterly detached from reality. Mira caught up with him. They do not understand. They think you are either a philosopher or a fool. There is no middle for them. Let them think, Miho said. He spent the hours before the preliminaries in a small, empty gymnasium he had found. It was not his gym. The air was sterile, filtered, but the floor was solid. He wrapped his hands again, the ritual centering him. Then he moved through his forms, slower now. He wasn't imagining an opponent. He was feeling his own body, his balance, his breath. He was making a list in his mind. Feet under you, head moving, hands up, breathe out on the hit. It was a simple list. It had always been enough. Mira watched from the doorway. She held a data slate, her fingers flying over it. She was searching. When Miho finished, she approached. I have been reading the full rules of the Vrection Rumble, she said. The official ones, not the simple summary. There is a technical annex. About the arena systems. Miho took a towel and wiped his face. Okay. The arena is a zero-gravity field with magnetic platforms. The platforms move and shift to challenge balance. The systems that run them are very sensitive to energy fields. I know this, Miho said. Yes, but here is the rule. She showed him the slate. The text was complex, but the translation was clear. Asterisk, note. Concurrent high-energy shielding in close proximity may induce localized magnetic instability in platform nodes. See Technical Spec 45.7. Asterisk. Miho read it. He read it again. What does it mean? It means, Mira said, her dark eyes bright. If many fighters with strong shields stand close together on one platform, the platform might wobble, flicker. It is a small note. For engineers. For shields as strong as the ones in the main games, it is a tiny problem. But for the Frontier Challenge, where shields are weaker and many beings rely on them, it might be a bigger problem. It is a flaw nobody thinks about because everyone uses shields. Miho looked from the words to his taped hands. A small, hard light sparked in his calm eyes for the first time. It was not hope. It was calculation. So their protection makes the ground unsure. Yes, Mira said. Your quiet feet and your cloth tape make no energy. They do not upset the ground. You will have the only stable floor. Miho nodded slowly. He looked at his hands, then at the slate, then at the distant, imagined arena. The monster of debt at his door, the pitying eyes of the galaxy, the alien giants with their claws and shields. They all suddenly felt a little smaller. He had not seen a way through. Now he saw a crack. Just a crack. A small, technical flaw in a universe of overwhelming power. It was enough. A boxer did not need a door. He needed an opening. He picked up his roll of tape. Thank you, Mira. She nodded. What will you do? What I came to do, he said. I will fight, and I will try to stand on solid ground. A soft hum filled the preparation chamber. Miho stood alone in a circle of light. Around him, in other glowing circles, his opponents prepared. The air vibrated with deep-throated chants, the clatter of natural armor, and the rising whine of personal shield generators. The smell was sharp, ozone from energy fields and something musky and alien. Miho wore only his shorts and his tape. He rolled his neck, feeling the tension gather. He was not scared. He was focused. The noise faded into a background buzz. He heard only his own breath going in and out. A holographic countdown appeared in the air. 10, 9. He thought of the gym's heavy bag. The smell of old leather. 8, 7. He thought of his father's hand on his shoulder, correcting his stance. 6, 5. He thought of Taehyun's desperate voice. Do whatever you have to do. 4, 3. He thought of Myra's words. The only stable floor. 2. He made 2 fists. The tape creaked. 1, 0. A flash of white light swallowed him. There was no sound, no feeling of movement. Then the light was gone. Silence. Then a roar, not of sound, but of vast, open space. He was floating. The Vrection Rumble Arena was a massive, echoing cube of darkness, studded with flat, hexagonal platforms that glowed with a soft blue light. They drifted, shifted, and occasionally flipped. There was no up, no down. Distant, shimmering walls marked the boundaries. The air was cold. 20 competitors materialized on different platforms. Miho landed in a low crouch, his feet finding purchase on the magnetic surface. Instinct took over. He did not stand tall. He stayed low, balanced, ready to move. Chaos erupted immediately. A few platforms away, a hulking being with chitinous plating roared and launched itself at a scaly opponent. Their shields flared bright purple on impact, a crackling burst of light and sound. The platform beneath them shuddered violently. Both fighters scrambled for new footing. That was Myra's flaw. In action, Miho did not move from his spot. He watched. He breathed. His platform drifted slowly, turning in the void. A combatant, a sleek being with bladed forelimbs, saw him. It saw a small, unshielded human, seeming lost. It was an easy first elimination. With a kick against its platform, it shot toward Miho, blades extended. The crowd, watching on billions of screens, saw the inevitable. The human was about to be carved apart. The alien commentators murmured about a swift, merciful end. Miho saw the attack coming. He saw the bladed arms, the focused face. But he also saw the feet. The alien was a projectile committed to its path. Could not turn easily. At the last second, Miho did not block. He did not meet the charge. He simply moved. He pushed sideways with his legs, floating just a few feet to his left. He tucked his knees to his chest, a slow, controlled spin. The bladed alien shot past him, its strike cutting empty air. Its momentum carried it past the edge of Miho's platform. It flailed, trying to grab on to nothing. It floated, helpless, into the dark until a safety beam, with a soft thump, caught it and teleported it out. Eliminated. A beat of silence hung in the arena and in living rooms across the galaxy. The move was not flashy. It was not powerful. It was efficient, like stepping aside from a falling tree. On his platform, Miho slowly straightened. He resumed his ready stance. The crowd's confusion was palpable. A fluke. Luck. But other fighters noticed. One, a massive creature like a walking boulder, was engaged in a shoving match with a shielded opponent on a nearby platform. Their shields pushed against each other, sparking and flashing. The platform beneath them flickered, its blue glow stuttering. The fighters wobbled, their stability gone. Miho saw his moment, not to attack them but to move. His own platform was drifting closer to theirs. As they struggled, he bent his knees and jumped. It was not a wild leap. It was a calculated push. He sailed across the short gap of emptiness and landed, cat-like, on the far edge of their unstable platform. The new weight, however small, was the final straw. The platform's light died completely for a full second. Both fighters, dependent on their magnetized boots to stay on, lost their grip. They tumbled off into the void, roaring in surprise before the safety beams caught them. Two more eliminated. Miho remained, now alone on the flickering platform. As the fighters vanished, the platform's glow returned to normal, steady and solid. The murmurs in the galactic audience were no longer about pity. They were about confusion. What was this human doing? He wasn't fighting. He was existing, and others were falling around him. A new competitor, more clever than the rest, understood. This human was using the arena itself. It decided to use power. It was a muscular, thick-hided being. It jumped to Miho's platform, landing with a heavy thud. It had no visible shield, just natural armor. It swung a massive, three-fingered fist at Miho's head. This time, Miho did not dodge away. He moved in. He slipped inside the wide arc of the punch. The alien's fist brushed past his ear. Before the alien could react, Miho planted his feet and pushed. Not a punch, but a solid, two-handed shove to the alien's chest. It was not about strength. It was about balance. The alien was leaning into its punch. Miho's push added to that momentum. The alien took a heavy step back and stepped right off the edge of the platform. It windmilled its arms, a look of pure shock on its face, before it was teleported away. Miho stood alone again, breathing steadily. He looked at his hands, at the now dirty white tape. He had not thrown a single punch to hurt, yet 4 opponents were gone. In the commentary booths, the translated voices were no longer bored. They were sharp, questioning. Did you see that? The platform instability. He is using it. He is not attacking their bodies. He is attacking their position. In his small room on the station, Mira watched, her 4 hands clenched together. On Earth, in the silent gym, Taehyun and Yuna stared, frozen. The neighborhood kids cheered at a screen, not fully understanding what they were seeing, only that Miho was still there. Miho's platform drifted toward the center of the arena, where the most violent clashes were happening. He crouched low again, his eyes calm, watching the flashing shields, the shuddering platforms, the predictable chaos of power without control. He was a stone in a raging river, and the river was starting to flow around him. The first frantic minutes of the rumble were over. Half the competitors were gone, teleported away by the safety beams. The arena felt larger, quieter, but more tense. The remaining fighters were the most dangerous, the smartest, the strongest, or the most vicious. Miho's platform drifted into a busier zone. Here, 3 other beings occupied a large central platform. They had formed a temporary, wary standoff. One was the rock-skinned giant from the training deck. Another was a slender, insectoid creature with razor-sharp limbs that hummed with vibration. The third was a telekinetic contender, a floating, jellyfish-like being whose body shimmered with contained energy. Its shield was not a light around it, but a visible distortion in the air. They saw Miho arrive. The rock giant snorted, a sound like grinding stones, pointed a thick finger. The soft thing. He floats like a leaf. The insectoid's head tilted. He eliminated Grash, not by strength, by trick. Its voice was a series of clicks translated into flat words. Tricks fail against power, the giant rumbled. It turned its back on Miho, focusing on the more immediate threats. But the telekinetic being, whom the audience knew as ZYX, did not look away. It had no eyes, but Miho felt its attention like a pressure on his skin. ZYX was a favorite to win. It did not need to touch its opponents. The standoff broke. The insectoid lunged at the rock giant, its vibrating blades striking sparks off the stone hide. The giant bellowed and grabbed for it. Their shields flared and crashed together. As Mira had predicted, the combined energy fields on the single platform made it shudder violently. The blue light beneath their feet pulsed like a sick heart. ZYX used the distraction. It gestured with a delicate tendril. A wave of invisible force slammed into the battling pair, not to hurt them, but to unbalance them further. The platform flickered out entirely for 2 full seconds. The rock giant's magnetized boots lost hold. It flailed, trying to grab the insectoid, which was skittering wildly for an edge. Both tumbled into the void and vanished. Now it was ZYX and Miho, alone on the large, slowly rotating platform. The platform's light returned, steady. ZYX floated a few feet above the surface, unaffected by the magnets. It had no need for them. The audience across the galaxy held its breath. This was the end. The clever human had met a being that did not play the game of footing and balance. ZYX could simply push him into space. In his gym on Earth, Taehyun closed his eyes. He couldn't watch. Miho felt the cold certainty of it. He could not outmaneuver something that didn't touch the ground. He had one chance. A boxer's chance. ZYX extended a tendril again. Miho felt the air thicken in front of him, a wall of force rushing toward his chest. There was no dodging it. It was everywhere. So he didn't try to dodge. As the force hit him, he jumped with it. He let it take him, but he directed his body. He turned the push into a backward somersault. He flew off the platform, but not out of control. He was spinning, but his eyes were locked on the only thing near him. A smaller, free-floating platform the size of a table, drifting slowly by. He stretched out his taped hands. His fingers brushed the edge. He grabbed. His body swung hard, his shoulders protesting. But he held on. He pulled himself onto the small, floating island. He was not out. He was displaced. A ripple of what might have been surprise passed through ZYX's form. It glided gracefully toward him. It would simply push him again from a shorter distance. There was nowhere to go. Miho stood up on the tiny platform. He had no room to run, no room to dodge. He had only what he always had. He raised his hands, not in surrender, in a fighting stance, his left foot forward, knees bent, fists up by his cheeks. The dirty white tape was the only color against the dark. ZYX paused. The gesture was so small, so specific. It was not a wild threat. It was an invitation, a declaration. ZYX gathered its power. The air around it shimmered. This push would be direct and strong. Miho took a deep breath. He thought of the heavy bag. He thought of the exact moment of impact. The exhale, the snap, the force came. A concentrated hammer blow of energy aimed at his center. At the moment of impact, Miho did the only thing he could. He turned. He turned his shoulder into the force, letting it glance off him. It was like riding a punch. Still hurt. Felt like being hit by a car. It blew the air from his lungs and spun him halfway around. But he was not thrown off. His feet, in simple rubber-soled shoes, gripped the magnetic platform. He grunted, swayed, but stayed on. ZYX floated closer, curious now. Prepared another push. Miho was already moving. He couldn't reach ZYX. It was too far. But he could reach the platform he was on. With all his strength, he stomped down on the edge of the small platform. It was a boxer's footwork, channeled into one sharp jerk. The small platform tilted violently. ZYX, floating just above it, was unprepared. The sudden movement of the object beneath it disrupted its graceful hover. It bobbled in the air, its focus broken for a split second. That was all Miho needed. He didn't have an energy beam or a blade. He had mass and velocity. He crouched and jumped, not away, but toward ZYX. He wrapped his arms around the shimmering, gelatinous form. It was cool and buzzed with power. He felt the telekinetic energy lash around him. Confused. It tried to push him away, but he was too close, holding on like a burr. They were a tangled mess, floating away from the platform. ZYX tried to reorient, to fling him into the abyss. But Miho held on, scrambling, until his back was to the distant arena wall. He braced his feet against ZYX's form. Then he pushed off with all his might, launching himself back toward the now distant central platform. He flew through the emptiness, arms wheeling. ZYX, propelled in the opposite direction, shot toward the arena boundary. The safety beam activated, teleporting it away just before impact. Miho crashed onto the large platform. He landed hard on his side, the breath knocked out of him. He lay there for a second, gasping. The arena was silent. Only two other competitors remained elsewhere, locked in their own duel. But all eyes were on the human lying on the platform. Slowly, painfully, Miho pushed himself to his knees. He got one foot under him, then the other. He stood up. He raised his hands again, checking his stance. He took a deep, ragged breath. He was still here. In that moment, across the galaxy, the story changed. This was no longer a joke or a tragedy. The being in the arena was not a leaf. He was an anchor. He had taken the direct, impossible power of a telekinetic and turned it into a grappling match. He had used his only weapons, his grip, his balance, his will to hold on. The translated commentary was no longer confused. It was hushed, respectful. One alien voice said, "He does not fight their fight. He makes them fight his. And on his ground, it seems, he cannot be moved." Miho looked at his taped hands, now torn and grimy. He made two fists again. They still worked. He was still standing. The final part of the rumble awaited. The final moments of the rumble were a blur of exhaustion and pain. The last two opponents, a crystalline being that refracted light into scorching beams and a massive creature with whip-like tentacles, eliminated each other in a spectacular clash of searing energy and thrashing limbs. Miho watched from a distant platform, conserving his strength, his body aching from the telekinetic blow. When the arena fell silent, a deep, resonant chime echoed 3 times. The shifting platforms froze in place. The zero-gravity field softened, letting Miho's feet settle with a firm, gentle pull to the nearest surface. It was over. A holographic display materialized in the center of the arena, listing the results. First place went to the crystalline being. Second to the tentacled creature. Third place listed in cool, blue letters, Kim Miho Human, Earth. Third place. He stood there, breathing hard, looking at his name among the stars. The sound was gone, replaced by a ringing in his ears. He couldn't process it. He just knew he didn't have to fight anymore. A shimmering portal opened on his platform. He walked through it, his steps heavy. The return to the station was nothing like his quiet arrival. A crowd of beings, officials, medics, other competitors, and media, was gathered in the reception hall. They parted for him as he emerged. The stares were different now. Not pity, not curiosity, a kind of wary, confused respect. They looked at his taped, bruised hands, his simple clothes, his calm, tired face. A medical drone zipped to him, scanning. It beeped, indicating bruised ribs and minor muscle tears. "Accept treatment?" a mechanical voice asked. He shook his head. "Just disinfect the cuts," he said softly. A spray of cold mist coated his knuckles. Stung, then numbed. An official in sleek robes approached, holding a data slate. "Competitor Kim, your winnings have been transferred to the account you provided. The Galactic Commission commends your unique performance." The being seemed unsure what else to say. It handed him a small, metallic chip, his official proof of placement. Miho took it. It was cool and light. "Thank you," he said. He walked away from the crowd, seeking the quiet of the corridor. Around a corner, Mira was waiting. Her iridescent scales flickered with emotion. She didn't offer congratulations. She simply fell into step beside him. "You made them see," she said. "See what?" Miho asked, his voice hoarse. "That a tool is only as good as the hand that holds it," she said. "My people will study your footage. The Tavan. Walking with your own shadow. You showed it is not a weakness." They reached the door to his temporary room. "What will you do now?" Mira asked. "Go home," Miho said. The shuttle ride back to Earth was quiet. He was alone again. He held the metal chip in one hand, a roll of unused tape in the other. He watched Earth grow larger, a blue and white marble against the black. He felt nothing but a deep, draining tiredness. The Soul Space elevator terminal was packed. News crews shouted. Cameras flashed. Ms. Choi from the liaison office was there, her stern face now arranged into a careful smile. She tried to steer him toward a podium. Miho walked past them all. His eyes scanned the crowd until he found Taehyun and Yuna, standing off to the side, looking small and overwhelmed. He went straight to them. He didn't say anything. He pressed the payment chip into Taehyun's trembling hand. Taehyun looked at it, then at his brother's bruised face. His eyes filled. He pulled Miho into a tight, wordless hug. Over his brother's shoulder, Miho saw Yuna. She was crying silently. She nodded at him, a small, proud smile breaking through. The media swarm closed in, shouting questions. "How did you do it? What's next for the taped titan? Do you have a message for humanity?" Miho turned to them. The cameras focused on his tired eyes, his wrapped wrists. He spoke quietly, and the crowd hushed to hear. "I went to fight," he said. "I fought. Now I am going home." He shouldered his small bag and, with Taehyun and Yuna beside him, walked out of the bright lights and into the familiar, grimy streets of his neighborhood. A week later, the gym was still there. The bank notice was gone from the door. Inside, the air smelled the same: old leather, sweat, dust. The heavy bag hung, waiting. Miho was wrapping his hands. A fresh roll of white tape. Rip with the teeth. Pull, wrap, smooth. The sound was the loudest thing in the quiet room. Taehyun was at the desk, the accounts now clean, planning a new schedule for the kids' classes. He looked over. "Does it feel different?" he asked. Your hands. After all that. Miho finished wrapping his right wrist. He made a fist, opened it. He looked at the simple cloth that had traveled to the stars and back. No, he said. They are still my hands. He stood up and walked to the heavy bag. He took his stance. Feet under him. Head moving. Hands up. He exhaled and began to work. Hud hud hud. The rhythm was steady, familiar. It was the sound of a man who had been to the edge of everything, to a place of giants and light, and had learned only one true thing. In the end, the only ring that mattered was the one you built for yourself. And his was right here, for meters square, smelling of effort and home. Outside, the galaxy buzzed with his story. Engineers debated the efficiency of human movement. Philosophers wrote about the Tavan. Betters cursed or celebrated. But in a small gym in Seoul, the story was already over. It had ended not with a roar from a crowd of billions, but with the soft, solid thud of a taped fist meeting leather, again and again, in the peaceful silence of a saved home.